वड़कम दोस्तों, हाउ आर यू? चलिए, वी वर डिस्कसिंग फॉरेक्स सीए फाइनल. विल कंटिन्यू फ्रॉम वेयर वी लेफ्ट. फॉरेन एक्सचेंज मार्केट कैसे डेवलप्ड हुई, क्यों डेवलप्ड हुई, दैट दिस ऑल वी हैड स्टडीड. We studied the market participants, how does the bank play a role, how does the arbitrage come into the picture. Government also have to, play a critical role in ensuring the economy, etc. We'll start now. Now we'll take it now. The foreign exchange exposure. What do you understand by the word foreign exchange exposure? I'll tell you, exposure is the first step to understand the effects. Why do we actually require the foreign exchange market? Why do we require the foreign exchange dealing? Why do we require the everything about cross rate, direct rate, indirect rate, quote, etc.? Because there is an exposure. What is the literal meaning of exposure? Exposure means outstanding positions of the foreign exchange liabilities, or in a way receivable assets. So when you actually have something outstanding in foreign currency, then only you will require to do or manage the FX, etc. So if nothing is outstanding at all, you will not require anything. If there is no receivable, there is no payable, then why will you require the foreign exchange management, etc.? Having said, refer to the previous sessions, previous chapters, previous discussion. In today's world, in globalized world, it is impossible to not have the foreign exchange exposure. You will have, in case you are just a beginner company, still you will require some sort of dealing with the with outside India, wherein the other counterparty will ask you to deal in FX. I know a company, a restaurant chain. A restaurant has a foreign exchange exposure. How come? Just think. Because the equipment which they used, the oven which they used in their kitchen is imported, and they are continuously growing. So they continue to import the ovens. Import. So the literal meaning in exposure can be defined as the contracted, projected, or contingent. So contracted for sure. Projected is also an exposure. See, we will study. There are two type of market. One is the spot, what is happening right now, how is the dollar INR trading presently, and the other part is the projected. How will the USD INR or INR per USD trade 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line? When you know, or you have to pay certain, say, royalty income, or suppose you are sort of your kid or you yourself want to go to, say, foreign education, and the next year you have to pay, say, $50,000. So if right now USD INR USD is 84, so if the next year USD INR touches 100 INR per USD, your liabilities will increase. अगर आपको अभी 84,000 रुपए देने थे, तो बाद में 1 लाख रुपए देने पड़ेंगे. The liabilities are sure and certain to increase. So any projected payout in foreign currency is also included as part of the exposure. Contingent, there can be some situation wherein magnitude of the cash flow is not certain right now, but they can happen. They may happen. If this thing will happen, you might, if there is some or the other actions happening somewhere, you will end up having the liabilities or the receivable in foreign currency. Okay, foreign exchange exposure arises from many different activities, but primarily it is dealing with the foreign nationals. Generally, people will say travelers. Traveler create a whole lot of foreign exchange exposure for the country. Like whenever you will go to US, you will go to Switzerland, you will go to Singapore, INR नहीं चलेगा. You have to buy the foreign currency. So that is one of the main reasons for creating the foreign. Why I'm smiling? Because I am from the corporate. The corporate people believe in the export and the import. So who is the exporter? Like TCS, Infosys, or many other IT companies. So they provide I'll say 60 to 70% of their services, generally 80% of their services to outside India. So there, the receivables are in foreign currency, USD, Euro, etc., etc. Importer, we import oil, like Reliance Industries import a lot of oil, they process it further. All our oil marketing companies, we import steel, we import power equipments, we import IT equipments. So therein again we have to pay in US dollars. अब बोलेंगे sir we import a lot of things from China also. Definitely. But what will China do with our INR? Ultimately, they have to convert in the US dollars. So largely the currency for currency for payout for the importer is USD or maybe Euro. So net USD the largest traded foreign exchange sort of currency. Majority of the foreign trade business, I'll say 50% plus happens in USD. Then we have Euro. We again have Yen, which is Japanese currency. What do you call it, etc. Even fund managers, not fund manager, but like there are various companies, big MNCs. They have assets, they have invested in India, they have invested in say even China, they have invested everywhere. So those assets are in the country wherein they have invested in their currency, hence they have to manage it. Like if someone has invested, say some US company has invested in India, say 1 lakh dollars, which is equivalent to right now say 84 lakhs. If USD depreciates, I mean if USD appreciates and INR depreciates, say INR now when they invested, when at that time USD was 84 INR per US dollar, right? 1 year later the INR has depreciated to say 100. It will not depreciate, but refer to the previous sessions, because of the purchasing power parity, because of the inflation, because of the interest rate differential, in the general economic or financial management theory, INR is expected to depreciate at a rate of interest rate differential, purchasing power differential, inflation differential. Just study the Forex session 2. Just revise it, you will get to know. Fine. So now movement in time when exchange rate, what type of, there has been different categorization. So there are three type of categorization to quantify the exposure. One is the translation exposure. Translation, translating one currency from another currency. Translation, we'll just discuss in detail. Another is the transaction exposure, which is on the spot, right now, whenever you are dealing. Another is the operating exposure. So do all the three exposures are explained in detail and we'll discuss it out. But आपको मैं थोड़ा सा यहीं पर बता देता हूँ. So transaction means whenever you deal, whenever you buy something, whenever you sell something, you have to receive goods or pay money. At that time, you receive foreign exchange. Impact of setting outstanding obligation entered into before change in the exchange rate, but to be settled after the change in the exchange rate. So broadly, when you purchased, like you have given an order of purchase, say this is January, you will receive the item in March. So order was given in January, there has been some outstanding, but you will have to pay once you receive the goods. There is a credit period of 60 days. You have to pay by say 31st March. So when you actually pay, that time, because the exchange rate may differ, You have to necessarily pay US dollar say 100. You are an Indian company. Right now, in the month of January, INR per USD was 84. So you had to pay 8400. Having said 3 months down the line, you do not know. You are not aware. Maybe the USD INR is 87 and 87. So for $100, because your liability is in US dollars, you will have to pay 8700. You are going to pay 300 rupees extra. Now you'll say, sir, 300 is the additional interest. Okay, let's calculate. So 300 is like 30% interest, not 30%, 3%. So that doesn't make a deal bad actually. Okay, it like so 300 divided by 8700, so around 3% for 3 months. No, that's not the point. The point is you had actually not borrowed, it was your own cash sitting at your pocket. In case you would have borrowed, then this 3% could have, we are just digressing from the topic, but could have made sense. Suppose like it was 97, then you will have to pay, 1300 extra. This will make around 130, 140%. So FX is not in your hand. There are currencies I have seen in a span of 3 months depreciating around 30%. There can be a situation. Even INR occasionally has depreciated 5% per month for 2-3 months together. Then it's got stabilized. You have to make necessarily the payment on 31st March. You cannot have a long-term horizon. So bottom line is that whatever payment or receipt you have to do, this is contra or otherwise also true. In case you have to receive, you will receive less, right? So or receive more depending upon how the INR has depreciated or appreciated. So transaction exposure is actually your outstanding liabilities to be paid in INR, or to be settled in the foreign currency. INR is not a foreign currency, but you'll have to buy the foreign currency from the INR. Fine. So this is your day-to-day sale, purchase, payout, receipt, operating expenses, the settlement part. Having said, आप बड़े बड़े चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हो, आप कंसोलिडेशन भी पढ़ रहे हो प्रवीण शर्मा जैसे, या फिर बुक्स प्रिपरेशन भी पढ़ रहे हो आप. What is called the translation exposure? So as per accounting standards, you have to reinstate all your balance sheet. So I have used the word balance sheet because liabilities as well as assets of foreign currency in local currency, in the reporting currency. So for example, अगर आपने लोन लिया हुआ है, loan is the easiest thing to explain. So if you have taken a loan say of 100 million means 6 zeros. So आपने 10 करोड़ का US डॉलर का, you have taken 100 million US dollar loan, which in today's term is say 840 crores. 840 crores, right? 100 million is 840 crores. Perfect. Okay. सिंपल कर लें, 1 मिलियन कर लेते हैं. 1 मिलियन इज 8.4 करोड़. अब बोलोगे सर ये इतना भी मुश्किल नहीं था जो आपने कराया. 1 मिलियन 6 जीरो आएंगे, ठीक है. 1 मिलियन इंटू में 84 इज 84 मिलियन. 84 मिलियन इज 8.4 करोड़. 8 करोड़ का आपने लोन लिया हुआ है. यू हैव टेकन अ लोन ऑफ 8.4 करोड़. एक्चुअल लोन इज इन US dollars. You have to repay this loan say after 2 years. Why I have taken 84? Because right now the INR per USD is 84. 2 year down the line, in case suppose you have 8.4 crore rupees, will you be able to pay all your loans? You do not know. Interest is separate. For the timing, let's exclude the interest. That's also a part of the exposure otherwise. No, because your payout will directly depend upon what is the USD INR prevailing presently? So suppose 2 year down the line, if USD is 90, then you will have to pay, what do you call it, 9 crore rupees. You actually lost, what did you lose? Whatever, around 7-8% because the currency depreciated. देखो guys, you the point which you have to understand, ये है तो technically in the normal scenario it's nothing but the inflation and the interest rate. Technically, having said, it can be other way around also. As I was trying to explain, there can be situation जब वो 20-30% ही 20-30% गिर गया currency etc. So that's why this is an exposure which requires protection. There are multiple tools. There are even there are without going into any technical product, there are ways to protect your exposure etc. देखो इससे होगा क्या, अगर आपने 9 करोड़ रुपए दिए तो जो 60 लाख एक्स्ट्रा किया आपका वो लॉस हो गया. जो 60 लाख आपने लोन पे एक्स्ट्रा दिए वो आपका लॉस हो गया. दैट्स योर लॉस. कोई liability will get reinstated at every balance sheet date in the INR terms. Right now your loan was 84. So suppose 3 months down the line the USD INR is 86. आपका लोन हो गया 8.6 करोड़. What will you debit? ये तो लाइबिलिटी बढ़ गई ना. तो 20 lakhs की आपकी लाइबिलिटी बढ़ गई. ओके, नाउ लेट्स कम टू द ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपोजर. सो ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपोजर इज अ लॉन्ग टर्म स्टफ. इतना ऑपरेटिंग को ही इसको इकोनॉमिक एक्सपोजर भी बोलते हैं. ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपोजर, दिस इज अ दिस each and every exposure is meaningful, but this can damage your firm. How? It is the overall impact on the exchange rate changes on the value of the firm. क्योंकि सर ये तो वैल्यू की बात कर रहा है. So value is getting derived from your profitability. So exchange rate changes significantly alter the cost of a firm's input. Suppose you were procuring something from say Indonesia and convert करके in India that was coming to say rupees 100. Now that Indonesian currency has appreciated in the same input and you are selling it in say 120 rupees. Now because of the change in the foreign exchange develop currency, somehow Indonesian rupee has appreciated against the INR by say 50%. Now the same 100 rupees item you will have to buy in 150 rupees. Now in case your seller, if you are not able to pass on this 50 rupees additional input cost, you are dead. No one will buy your item because there are competitors who can sell the same product or near same product in 120 rupees or say 125 rupees, wherein your cost of production itself has gone by 50 rupees. Price of its output. Similarly, if I take it other way around, if you are selling something in Japan, so if you are selling an equivalent of INR, say rupees 100, now the currency of Japanese has appreciated. Now you were getting equivalent JPY. Now the equivalent JPY for this 100 rupees is say 80 rupees. Your input cost was 90 only in INR. So again, so economic exposure is a long-term impact on the operating efficiency, influences its competitive position substantially. That is called the economic exposure. Okay. So now let us quickly recap the, what do you call it, transaction and translation exposure. Transaction exposure in Indian exposure has a receivable of 100,000. This is called 1,000. So whenever you talk about the foreign exchange, it's generally you will talk thousands, million. You will not talk about crores and lakhs. So 100,000. If 6 months the dollar depreciate, the rupee, if the dollar will depreciate, then if he was an exporter. So see, it's very clear here. I'll just explain it to you. एक बार आपको पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा. As I say, $100 million. There is an exporter, there is an importer. Exporter has to receive, importer has to pay. इनको थोड़ा छोटा कर लेते हैं. ओके, सो इन आईएनआर टर्म्स क्या आएगा, ये है डॉलर। आईएनआर टर्म्स में इंपोर्टर को क्या आने वाला है, सो 100,000 का था, तो इसको आने वाले हैं 8,40,000 रुपीज। कैसे मैंने किया, इसको मल्टीप्लाई मैंने 8.4 से कर दिया, और मेरे को करना तो 84 से है ना, तो इसको 8,40,000 रुपये आने वाले हैं। 100,000 कितना होता है भाई, 8,40,000, 84 कर दिया, 84 के बाद 50, तो इसको 84 लाख रुपए जाने वाले हैं। 100,000 की सैलरी होती है ना, तो यू गेट अ सैलरी ऑफ से 100,000 इन यूएसडी, you get a salary of say 200,000, so that's 1.7 crore. Importer has to pay 84 lakh rupees. Okay, if this 84 changes to say 90, then the importer is at advantage because INR depreciate. INR depreciate. 90 means INR depreciate. हाँ, आपको ज्यादा पैसा देना पड़ेगा यूएस डॉलर खरीदने के लिए. दिस इज INR depreciation. So the exporter will be at an advantage because he will get 90 lakhs. His receivable was in US dollars, right? Importer would be at a disadvantage because he will have to pay 90 lakhs. And in case it's other way around, so basically making a balance of the currency, you're trying to, keep it stable or a normal, as we say, normal inflation of 2-3% is good. Similarly, normal inflation, deflation in the currency are also, they're nothing but the economic factor. So if the interest rate is getting depreciated, interest rate differential is around 2.5%, the currency is expected or bound to be depreciated accordingly. So that's why, if the currency depreciates, if the Indian INR depreciates, our importers, people like Infosys, TCS, etc., they are at advantage. Our exporters, where our importers would be at loss. Translation you have already discussed. Like suppose you have purchased an import of capital goods, purchased an asset of say 550. Here you have taken US dollar at 55. So 1 million is 550 lakhs. So this is 5 crore 50 lakhs. 550 lakhs is 5.5 crores, right? And how it, so you have purchased a machinery of 1 million that gets translated at a rate of 55, is way back rate of 2012. So say 5.5 crore. Now suppose the INR depreciates to say 58. What will happen to your asset and your loan? So loan definitely will go up. Loan will go up. Assets will get capitalized, but against what? There is some liability. Asset will get depreciated, but these are all accounting methods, but asset will not appreciate on a daily basis. So you have I will say 30 lakhs has gone into the P&L. So loan will definitely go up. How the module has explained you that there is a translation loss for 30 lakh for sure. It shall have to be capitalized by increasing the book value of asset. भैया कब तक बढ़ाओगे? That also you can do, but I don't think that's a right method. 30 lakhs, you have suffered a loss straight away. The dollar loan had to be repaid by the undertaking the transaction by purchasing dollars. I think you have broadly understood what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, this was a full English lesson, but that's okay. So I think we have already spent 25 minutes. We'll schedule the hedging currency rest maybe by the evening. I know your concentration span is less than 25 minutes, so it is very difficult for me to continue to engage you for an hour. आपको थक जाते हो, आपको WhatsApp देखने का बड़ा दिल करता होगा, Facebook पे notification का बड़ा दिल करता होगा, but anyhow, so generally we'll try and keep the lecture to 1 hour. I know if it is interesting, people can spend up to 1 hour, specifically the CA student. But if it is not interesting, then 30-35 minutes are more than sufficient. I'm not starting this chapter because this topic, which it itself will take around additional 45 minutes. क्या hedging कैसे कर सकते हैं, and what all we can do, we can avoid, etc. So let's connect in the evening. Bye bye guys, take care.